Hey, this is Amos from TesseracT, and you're listening to Heretic Frequency.
Welcome, fellow heretics, to another episode of Heretic Frequency, the podcast that plunges into the depths of heavy music soul, spotlighting the trailblazers and the undiscovered gems, as well as bringing you conversations with some of the scene's most influential artists. I'm your host, Ez, and today I have a special treat for you all. Joining me on this episode of the show is none other than Amos Williams, the maestro behind the seismic bass lines that define the progressive metal landscape with the band TesseracT. TesseracT, known for shattering sonic boundaries, is set to make their triumphant return to Australian stages after 6 years, fueled by their latest sonic saga, War of Being. So, my little heretics, join me now as we uncover the essence of heavy music, celebrate the luminaries who shape its landscape, and unearth the rising stars designed to ignite your sonic soul. And please enjoy my conversation with Amos Williams. This is Heretic Frequency.
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you this evening?
Yeah, pretty good. It's obviously a lot earlier for me than it is for you. What time is it down? Where are you? In Melbourne, yeah?
Melbourne, yeah. Oh, well, close to Melbourne. It is 6:40 here.
6:40. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's 9:40 in the morning for me. And
Oh, there you
as
go.
I'm sure you can imagine, as a musician, that's still breakfast at least.
Yeah, at least. Well, I'm Ez anyway. Amos, it's really nice to meet you.
Excellent. Nice to meet you. Thank you for taking the time to speak to me. It's really cool.
It is very much a pleasure to nab a little bit of your time. So TesseracT will be on Aussie soil in just a handful of weeks for the War of Being tour. My God, you guys are like hot property at the moment. Your Sydney and Melbourne shows are sold out, and then you had to add a second show in Melbourne. From what I can tell, the other shows are all selling quite fast as well. So it is safe to say that Aussies are pretty keen to welcome you back for the first time in 6 years. I feel like, though, you must just
Is it the first time in 6 years?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, we did have that.
Must be, yeah. There was a little blip in the middle there, wasn't there?
Yeah, we won't say the C word.
Yeah, well, the thing is, Australia was always one of our earliest markets. It sounds wild to think, actually, yeah, to think about it, it's wild. Why would the other side of the earth be one of our earliest markets? And it's a shame that we don't get to come back more often, but I mean, the very fact that it is the other side of the world does make it a little tough to get back there. Like, we used to, I think, do every couple of years, we'd come and do a tour. But then, like, you had things like Soundwave, which were really cool, that helped us develop the market down there. So, yeah, it's brilliant to go back.
Aussies love their prog metal. So
Yeah.
if I do say so myself, the Aussie metal scene is pretty kick-ass. So it doesn't surprise me at all that you guys have been well received here. You must feel just relentlessly busy at the moment, though. Like, you guys have pretty much been non-stop since, probably before the release of the
Forever.
new record. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a strange one, because even when you're not busy online, you're busy offline, if that makes sense. So it's
Oh, yeah, definitely.
there's always, every morning there's always some new piece of chaos to try to deal with behind the scenes, and that's not because people are bad within what we do. It's just that that's the music industry. Unfortunately, it is. I mean, that's why we're in it as well. It's exciting. It's an abusive relationship that we're wholeheartedly happy with.
I'm in a band as well, and that's like the perfect way to describe it. Abusive relationship. Oh, I will remember that. Do you think it's worth it though? Right?
Oh, yeah, totally. I mean, it doesn't matter how grumpy you might get because you're getting up at 3 a.m. to go to an airport to spend 3 hours trying to check in 20 or 30 pieces of luggage that you then have to try to argue with the check-in clerk, or your tour manager does, which we're obviously quite lucky to have that scenario. But we have been there and we have done it ourselves, only then to spend another, I don't know, 10 hours on a flight to get to somewhere. It doesn't matter how grumpy that makes you, because it's a joyful job. It's a job where not only do you get to do the thing that makes you feel complete, but also you get to meet so many different people and experience so many different cultures and perspectives on life, that even in a city like London, where I grew up, yes, it's hugely diverse, but it is through kind of the lens of hegemony that you get of the British culture. So it's wonderful for me to have spent the last sort of 15, 20 years traveling the world and realizing that there's more to the human condition than the albeit varied and diverse nature that I find in London.
Also, it must be really nice as well to sort of wherever you go, people want to see you. Like people are paying money to go see your shows, and so that must be a buzz, like just getting that all the time as well.
That is good. Yeah, it was super exciting when we announced the world tour in maybe April last year or May, and the first show to sell out was one of the furthest away from where we are, which is Melbourne.
Yeah, right. Were we the first to sell out?
Yeah, like within 10 or 12 days. It was awesome.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
ridiculous. I had to get on Tixel to try and get a
yeah.
ticket. It's all right, I'm going. I got one.
Sweet, nice one. Yeah, so I mean, amazing that we then get to open a second date for that. But yeah, it just shows you that it's wonderful to realize that there are people that want to not only listen to your music, but find it as so much fun that they want to experience it live and can help you
Mm.
make more music in the future, and also to feel fully realized as a musician, because certainly for me, music is not just about creating music in a studio. It's about the forever, it's, infinitely varied versions of the song that you create when you're
Mm.
in a room full of people, because that it's kind of a partnership. They make the song as much as you do in that moment, because
Yeah, definitely.
the music is just an excuse for me to be in that place in that time doing that thing. So every single show is completely different, and it's they're all, I mean, they're not all wonderful experiences, but they're all experiences that I'm happy that I've had.
Yeah, well, I can't remember which band it was that I spoke with. It was a while back now, but I remember the comment that they made about even mistakes are great
Yeah,
in live settings because that makes that show memorable in
totally.
some way. And sometimes the mistakes become more fun than if you had have nailed it.
Yeah, sure.
So the tour is kicking off in Brisbane, and like I mentioned, you're playing Sydney and Melbourne as well, and then there's Adelaide, and you're finishing in in my opinion, one of the nicest parts of the country, which is Perth. A lot of international bands actually do skip over Adelaide and particularly Perth. Will this be
Hmm.
your first time playing there, or have you been there before?
No, we're one of those lucky bands that I think when we started touring, the the scene in Australia was really healthy. So we always went to Perth and Adelaide, and not just the three cities that everybody goes to. I can understand why people don't end up in Perth, because I think it's only recently that the scene has kind of started to get better again. But I noticed that we did a couple of tours where, out of our group of bands, we were the only ones that were ending up in Perth, and it felt like there was a bit of an economical downturn happening to that city that I think has now changed. If I'm right to say that things are working out much better for it now, so there are more people back again, and there's more of a opportunity to play shows. And also, I think the
Yeah.
whole thing with Soundwave kind of stopped people from heading out that way, which is a real shame, because, like you say,
Mm.
it's got an awful lot going for it. It's cool as hell. Downtown in the CBD is wonderful, and then yeah, you're minutes away from the Indian Ocean, which is fantastic. So
And then you got Rottnest Island with the little
yeah,
quackers.
exactly. Yeah.
And yeah. Yeah, I think it's definitely not an easy part of the country even for us to get to. It's
Yeah, of
costly and
course.
all that
Yeah.
sort of thing. And you're right, Soundwave, obviously, that's a little bit of a dirty word around these parts
Yeah,
because of all
yeah. I
that.
mean,
But
yeah, it's a shame, but I can understand why that
a big shame.
happened. But it
Yeah.
looks like things have changed. I mean, now you've got things like Knotfest
Mm.
filling that hole. It's obviously not the same size, but it still means that you end up with an opportunity not just for international bands, but also that does feed into helping develop grassroots bands. And I think, like you mentioned earlier, there's a great scene, and not just a great scene, but also not just the bands that are developed from that scene, but also the community and the touring crew. For example, our crew on this tour are both Australian. So we've got a front of house and we've got a LD, so sorry, sound guy and lighting technician that are both from Australia that we've known for over a decade now. But it's wonderful that they're able to not just have to fly out internationally to work, but they can also do stuff within Australia, so they're not away from their families for months on end for most of the year. So it's great that that is starting to come back because there is a massive demand for it. There is a veracity amongst the Australian fans, and it's just such a shame that it is so far away from both Europe and North America, where the majority of this music is coming from. But I'm hoping that's changing. I'm hoping we're starting to see more Southeast Asian bands get involved, and that will bring with it something really rather interesting because you'll have a perspective that isn't through the lens of European music based upon that European culture.
Mm.
And I find that really exciting because I have no idea what that would create. That would be wonderful to hear an Asian
Yeah.
perspective. I mean, you've got
Yes.
bands like Bloodywood
Yeah.
that are having a load of fun with like a Indian version of new metal, and it's great. You
Oh
know,
my God. Oh, Bloody Wood are one of my favorite bands.
they're good fun, aren't they?
I really want them to come out here at some stage. Speaking of local grassroots level bands and stuff as well, you have Melbourne Locals Future Static as your support for this tour.
Yeah, that's cool, isn't it?
Yeah, and look, I know that supports in most circumstances are not arranged by the band, but do you typically suss out the music of your support bands?
We give it a check, and to be honest, it's I would say, although maybe this we could have in this example have actually dictated to say management and the promoter who we would want on tour, but in this case and in most cases we normally go with suggestions because it's also who is available, who is going to actually bring tickets to the show, because you know we're not yet selling out the whole tour in advance. Maybe one day, and then when that is the case, we can potentially just say who do we want. But yeah, we did check out Future Static, and it was they've actually been a name that's been mentioned a few times before within our inner circle. I think our guitarist James, he has a second life where he's also a PR guy for a company called Hold Tight, and I'd imagine he might be their guy in Europe. So he's mentioned them before when talking about Australia. But yeah, I mean, normally we check them out, and if there are any obnoxious bands, and there are very rarely obnoxious bands, we would say no, this really is a wrong look for us. So we have a veto in the bands, but more often than not, it will be a suggestion to us. Now, I don't know why that would be. It's probably indicative of more of our lack of awareness of what's going on the scene rather than any other things. So that's quite an interesting.
There's also a lot of other stuff that you have to organize and do. And if someone else can take care of that, then obviously you're
Yeah,
going
yeah.
to take advantage of that. But I did actually just wonder whether you'd check them out because anyone that listens to my show knows I bang on about them quite a lot. I do happen to be friends with Amy, their singer, and
Ah, sweet.
she did say to me to tell you that if you guys are going to play King, that you should get her up for, and these are in her words, her very Aussie words, a guestie. So
A guestie.
I'm just putting that out there.
Let's see how it goes.
But no, she's a powerhouse.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I hope, because obviously we get to do a few shows with them. I hope that we'll be able to connect. And it's quite hard for a band like Tesseract to make that connection with bands, and it often takes us like 3 or 4 weeks to get to know people, just because we kind of get in our zone and there's so much to do, because we always make everything super complicated for no reason. So it's it'll be really cool to within, I think it's 5-6 shows, I suppose, especially in Melbourne, we'll get the opportunity to hang out a little, so that could be cool.
Yeah, and Melbourne's their hometown as well, so they might be able to show you around a little bit.
Sweet. Awesome.
Thanks for listening and supporting Heretic Frequency. If you're into this, make sure you follow so that you don't miss any new episodes, and it's always appreciated if you share with your pals. Okay, let's get back into the second half of the interview. I know that, like we said it before, that touring can be just like a hectic blur of one hotel room and airport after another, but do you think you'll get any chances to see some sights and have a little bit of downtime while you're over here?
If I remember rightly, we've definitely got 2 full days in Brisbane this time, which is sweet.
Nice.
They will be off the back of a solid week in India touring, which is one of, I mean, I used to live in China, so I understand chaos, but India is chaos. So I don't know what sort of state we'll be in after that week, and we might just need those 2 days to just do nothing. But
you've been smart. You've picked the best place to just unwind in. The weather will be good, and it's a lovely city. So
yeah, my dad used to live in just outside of Byron Bay, so I'm aware that the countryside around Brisbane is awesome, and it'd be really cool to, just to grab a train, go up the coast a little, maybe towards Gold Coast, and see what we can find there, rather than just hanging out in the in the city.
So your latest album is War of Being, and that was released like a little bit over 6 months ago now, probably? September?
Maybe.
Yeah, what am I saying? You're the guy that's been living in a blur of chaos for the last year, or what did you say, 15 years?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
But hey, it's a very epic record. I'm not going to lie. How can the punters expect to see that epicness matched at the live shows?
Yeah, it's especially with like Australian tours. It's always been really hard for I'm going to say European bands as general to bring production with them. I noticed, like I've seen, so the crew that we're working with often works with North Lane as well, and I've seen some of their recent productions, and they've looked absolutely fantastic. It's a shame we won't be doing something quite as involved and as spectacular as that, but we are at least going to have a form of production that is close to what we've had in Europe. We're not bringing pyro, unfortunately, or lasers, but we will still be able to bring some drama. And in fact, we do add small elements of like theatrics into our show now. That is something we're developing and something we're excited to explore more. And I guess just it's allowing who we really are to come out, and that's quite fun. And it's really good when you get to do that in a what we should really call an established region for us. So it's great that things are starting to get to the point where we can move up a bit. But even I don't know, it seems really tough, because I've seen even like Sleep Token and Bring Me the Horizon recently been on tour, and maybe still on tour, and in Australia, and they're not doing anywhere near the sort of things they do when they're on tour in America or when they're on tour in Europe. So that was really interesting to see that it's, I mean, it may just be availability of equipment and things like that, because it isn't the same infrastructure as everything is kind of far away from each other. So I'm not surprised that it's very difficult for European bands or American bands to bring like a full big production with them, because it seems like the logistics are quite a challenge.
Yeah, I would imagine so. It's funny you bring up Bring Me the Horizon and Sleep Token, because I was literally just thinking that, yeah, they are still on tour at the moment. I saw lots of photos and videos, and it's funny because I was looking at it at the production and thinking, my God, that must have cost a fortune to bring over. And to hear you say that they've scaled it down. So I think it probably just comes down to the cost involved of because we're so far away, bringing all that production over with them. And then obviously there might be limitations with what's already available here. It's good to know that there will be some theatrics in your show and some, I guess, visually appealing things going on as well. Even though I guess the performance itself shouldn't have to rely on that, but everything counts, doesn't it, to create that artistic...
Yeah, I think we're learning that there, whilst we're more than happy to just to go on stage and to be us in a raw format, there is a certain level of resonance that comes from being a little bit dramatic and really leaning into exploring the possibilities that our kind of production can utilize. Being that we can do some amazing things with video, with synchronization that perhaps wouldn't fit with other bands or other genres, shall we say. And because we're kind of leaning towards creating things that are more visually stimulating or visually fantastical, it's really exciting for us to do that, because it's not just because it makes you feel like a proper band, not just that, but it kind of, you feel fully realized and fully actualized within that, because we are somewhat pretentious at nature.
Well, I suppose it more comes down to the fact of you could either put on a performance or you could create an experience. And it just makes that a bigger experience rather than people coming in and just watching a band play. They're part of it. They become part of that experience. And it's much more, I don't know, just connects a lot more, I think.
Totally.
I don't know. I'm one of those pretentious people as well that walks around the streets with their earphones in, thinking that it's like the main character in a movie with my own soundtrack. So, I was doing a little bit of digging, and am I correct in saying that you began your musical journey as a drummer?
Yeah, totally. Long time ago.
So then how did you end up wielding the bass?
I mean, as a young, ignorant boy, I kind of thought that this shows how long I've been listening to heavy music, but like when I was in my, I don't know, let's say 6, 7, 8 years old, and starting to listen to stuff that wasn't just presented to me, but like I was exploring, say, my mother's record collection, or just randomly getting things from the record store that I liked the cover of or whatever, as you do when you're a kid. You don't have a real concept of what it is.
Well, before streaming platforms, and you had to actually buy a record and just hope that you liked what was on it.
Yeah, totally. And more often than not, you are attracted by the artwork than who the artist was at that age, certainly. I'd listened to this stuff and I'd kind of assumed that the really aggressive and powerful sounds that I was hearing was the bass guitar. I don't know why. It's a moronic thing to realize, but
no, it's because you were a child.
Yeah, totally. So I forgive myself.
Yeah, definitely. I remember as a kid thinking every time I heard a song on the radio, the singer was standing in the radio station performing the song there and then. So there we go. Well,
yeah, cool.
From one moronic person to another. I get it. I get where that train of thought came from.
Yeah, so it turned out to be fun, but also the personalities of some of the bands that I was listening to, for some reason I was just drawn to them. Like people like Flea in the Chili Peppers seemed like the interesting guy in the Chili Peppers, or Duff McKagan in Guns N' Roses seemed like the interesting one, or even Tom Araya from Slayer. It's like, oh, you're the interesting one in the band. Whereas I looked at the guitarists and I thought they were dickheads. So I was just like, well, clearly I don't want to be a guitarist or a singer.
So yeah, well, there's enough of them anyway. They're all over the place.
Exactly,
So,
yeah.
well, I have a 16-year-old bassist in my house that is a huge fan of yours.
Cool. Oh, nice.
He's extremely devastated that the Melbourne gigs are not all ages.
Oh, are they not? Oh, shit.
No, they're
Sorry about
not.
that.
He explicitly asked me to express as much to you as well. So I told him
Hmm.
that I would tell you to arrange another tour in approximately 2 years' time when he's 18. So that's not too much
Cool.
to ask, is it?
No, that sounds about the right sort of timescale, to be honest.
Yeah.
We'll see how this one goes.
Yeah. Don't wait another 6 years on us.
Oh, God, no, no.
Alrighty. Well, Amos, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me tonight.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for taking the time as well.
It's been really awesome. I do have my ticket to your
Nice.
first Melbourne show, so I'm super, super looking forward to that. And
Sweet.
I hope that you get to enjoy some much deserved downtime and relaxation once the tour is done and dusted.
No, definitely. We've got not so much on this summer. Sadly, they are huge shows, so there's a lot of development and a lot of work that goes into that. But at the same time, the touring is minimal until September, where it all kicks off again, which is going to be fun. But yeah, it's going to be awesome to spend the next month, 5, 6 weeks in and around Southeast Asia, because it's such a wonderful place, and it's so good for us to not just visit new places, but also to go back to places like India and Australia. And then, yeah, we're going to end up in Japan, which is one of those things that a rock band always thinks, that's either a sign that you're doing well, or the typical, you've done so badly that this is the end of your career. And so it's, yeah, hopefully not the end of our career, but a sign that we're doing well.
I feel like with the success of this most recent record, I don't think I can't see things slowing down for you anytime soon. I don't think Japan's the end of the line.
I hope not. I hope not.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I will see you
Cool.
on stage in a couple of weeks' time.
Cool. See you there. Take care, yeah?
That wraps up my conversation with Amos Williams. TesseracT will be in the country beginning in Brisbane on May 2nd at the Princess Theatre. Tickets are low. They'll also be in Sydney playing the Metro Theatre on May 3rd. That show is sold out. From there, they will hit Melbourne Saturday, May 4th at the Croxton Band Room. That show also sold out. But fret not, Victorians. There's a follow-up show in Melbourne on the 5th, also at the Croxton, but ticket numbers are low there too, so fair warning. The boys score a day off before jumping across to Adelaide to play at Lion Arts Factory. That's May 7th. And finally, they will wind up the Aussie leg of their huge world tour in Perth on Thursday, May 9th. That one is at Magnet House. Tickets are selling fast for all shows, so if you haven't nabbed one yet, you might want to get onto it or risk missing out. Massive thank you to you for listening in to another episode of Heretic Frequency. Or if this is your first time, then welcome aboard, and I hope you stick around for future episodes. Make sure you smash the follow button so that you don't miss out on any future episodes. This podcast dealio is just getting off the ground, so there are bigger things coming for sure. And you can say that you got to be here from the get-go. Stay heavy, homies. I'm Ez, this is Heretic Frequency, and we will catch you next time.